welcome. It's the Patriot Radio News Hour live once again, wrapping up 2017, 4 days away from jolly old St. Nick coming down the chimney and leaving all kinds of little presents for the kiddies out there. Yes, it's no longer a religious holiday for most people, just a sign of the times. Another one, again, not a good one, but it is what it is. It's the Patriot Radio News Hour, though. We've been here over 20 years. We've been right here doing this show. I'm Joe Jaquint, CEO of the Patriot Trading Group, the physical delivery of wealth insurance, legal, lawful, constitutional tender. You know, our founding fathers were really, really intelligent people. I believe that because they wrote the greatest doctrine in the history of at least this world. And today they want to pick and choose, don't they? Don't you feel that way? They just want to pick and choose what parts of the Constitution they want to follow. And I've just got this incredibly horrible feeling. We're going to find out why it was the founding fathers wanted the money to be gold and silver. It depends on where you are in the age scale. If you're going to live a little while, and by a little while, I'm going to put 10 years on it. If you're not going to be here within the next 10 years, you may get out of it and not have to learn the lesson. Everybody else, we're probably going to have to learn it. We'll break it all down for you. The website at allamericangold.com, the best around. Make sure you make it part of your favorites. And it's not, the funny thing is we sell gold and silver. We pay for everything when you call and order from us. I mean, that's just how we do it. That's why I don't care if it's, a roll of dimes or 20 proof American Gold Eagles. It doesn't matter, big or small. It all adds up. And we put that website together for one reason, to educate everybody, make it part of your daily routine, keep you in the know to what's going on. A special welcome back to Ramon. The guy's a stud. He, as you know, I asked for your prayers, and they were answered. He is back to work today. He only missed one day of the website. He had a pretty good excuse. He was in the hospital, with a massive infection because we're guys and we don't take care of things like we're supposed to. But he's back today, so welcome back to Ramon, and happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everybody. If I forget to say it tomorrow, remember our schedule. We are off Monday and Tuesday this week, Monday and Tuesday next week. So just make sure you make a note of that. We'll be back on Wednesday each of the next 2 weeks. Already the phone's ringing again. We still have some proof Gold Eagles, and actually quite a few proof 1 ounce American Gold Eagles, $1,350. Silver's unchanged today, $1,260. I'm going to round up here, $1,266 right now on gold, a proof Gold Eagle, and I'll get into the details a little more. But I'm telling you right now, it's incredible, $1,350 on a proof 1 ounce American Gold Eagle. Like I said yesterday, you can buy these straight from the mint. Their price is a little more than mine. They're at $1,560. So $1,350 on proof Gold Eagles. 20 or more, I'll throw in the shipping. 800-951-0592. Jobless claims are out today. It was up 20,000. I don't know what to make of it. The jobless claims number now, it's not the jobless claims we grew up on, because so many of the jobs now you're ineligible for jobless claims, right? You're a contractor, you're a temp worker, something to that effect, where you don't get to file jobless claims. But it was up 20,000, but still not 245,000 people lined up at the unemployment office for the very first time. We had the Philadelphia manufacturing and the Chicago manufacturing. Philly was up, Chicago was down, so that kind of washed in the wash. Then we had revisions to third quarter GDP. We're going to spend some time on this because, we all want to hope and with the tax cuts being passed, that we'll get another year of growth. So we got to look at third quarter GDP. It did get revised down lower, not by a lot, but the devil's in the details, and it doesn't. It's interesting. I was surprised, but I shouldn't have been surprised. We call it the plug number. I'll break all of that down for you as well, and then USA Today. Big headline in the USA Today: Washington headed for $1 trillion deficit. And I remember I told you I thought it would be 2019. It may be 2018. And we'll talk about the reasons for that as well. And then one other thing we're going to talk about is population, where people are moving to, and maybe more importantly, what states are people leaving? Patriot Radio News Hour. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Still got about 70 proof 1-ounce gold Eagles. And I know for a lot of you, you're like, oh, what? We don't buy proof. You've told us don't buy proofs, and that's one of the great rip-off coins in the industry. When you call the competitors, when you call the people on the TV or the people that advertise for the free report or the ones that tell you you buy gold at cost and all that stuff, okay, their favorite call, the call that they want to get is, I've got a lot of money, all right, I want to spend $50,000, $100,000, and I don't know anything. Right? They love that call. And they have these really good salespeople that talk you into spending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars over spot on products, and the Proof Gold Eagle's always been one of those. And like I said yesterday, this is a coin that an average price, okay, and I told you, today, you go out to the Mint website, $1,560. And you're like, but gold's only $1,266, $294 over spot. And that's an average. That's why we never sell them. And it is. Listen, they're great. They come in a blue box, and it has a certificate of authenticity in it, and they're all, the Mint only makes, like a couple 100,000 of them a year, and what makes them a proof coin is they put, whether they amp up the pressure on the press or they press it a bunch of times, but I mean it has it's a more shine to it. I mean, it's a really nice looking product. It's a great looking product. It's still only an ounce of gold. I don't care how nice it is. And we have always paid, probably $100 to $250 over spot for one, because people do have them, will buy them. So to be able to sell them at, $84 over spot, it's incredible to me. And I know we've sold a lot of things that, 2017 will go down in the history books as if not the greatest Maybe the only better time would have been if you were able to buy $20 gold pieces like Liberties or St. Gaudens and somehow keep them in 1933 because, 90 days after they confiscated, the price went from $20 to $35. Of course, no one could keep them. But nonetheless, the best time ever since it's been legal to own gold again in the United States. I mean, they've only been minting proof gold eagles since 1986, and so in the history of proof 1 ounce American gold eagles, this is the cheapest I've ever seen them as we're in relationship to spot ever. And you think about, gold used to only be $300, $400, even when it was 200 the low, 250 some odd dollars. You could not buy a proof gold eagle for $84 or $85 over spot. It just wasn't going to happen. So to be able to do it today, I highly, highly, highly recommend it, even though it is not in our typical wheelhouse. Right? We like the older collectible without paying collectible prices. That's why we sell the Liberties and the Saints. Just so you know, the proof gold eagles are just like that. They are a collectible. So the government sells them that way. That's why they come in the box with the cert and all of that as well. But 1 ounce American gold eagles, proof gold eagles, $1,350 at 800-951-0592. And again, that puts us in the leadership of the cheapest prices in the country. 800-951-0592. So let's go to what came out today as far as third quarter GDP. It did get revised down, but just a tenth to 3.2%. And as I started off the show, are we going to benefit, or how much are we going to benefit from this tax cut? And I said yesterday, I hope Moody's is wrong, and I hope the Federal Reserve is wrong, and that we do better than what they say. So the government released the initial number during the third quarter, which came out to 3.3%, got revised down today to 3.2%. One of the things that caught my eye because it did it in the second quarter and it did it again in the third quarter, when the initial numbers came out for second quarter and third quarter GDP, they had big increases in motor vehicles, and they do motor vehicle and motor vehicle parts are one category in the GDP numbers. So I was actually surprised that the second quarter and the third quarter didn't get revised lower. Right, and that's been the 2 quarters of the 3% GDP, because I know that that's not true. Right, because we know, you look at Ford, you look at General Motors, you look at all, right, they're all cutting production, and our car sales are less this year than they were last year, so it doesn't add up. All of that got explained today. So the initial number got revised lower in every category, including automobiles, okay? And there's only one category that went higher in the revisions. So when you look at all of the categories, you have motor vehicle and parts got revised lower. Then they have other non-durable goods also got revised lower. Furnishings, durable household equipment, food and beverage, other durable goods. So you have other non-durable and then other durable. Financial services and insurance, food service and accommodation, recreation services, other services, transportation services, housing and utilities, recreation goods and vehicles and other, clothing and footwear, gasoline and other energy goods. Okay? That makes up the personal consumption spending of GDP. So when you think about your household, all of the spending that you do gets put in one of those buckets. So when they revised GDP, there was one I left out, by the way, and there's a reason why I did. All of the buckets I just mentioned got revised lower. Obviously, motor vehicles got revised lower by the most. But yet the GDP only got revised down a tenth because one item, one group, came in much, much higher. And that had to do with medical expenditures. And when you look at what happened, it was really amazing, the increase in medical expense. The third quarter GDP growth in the first estimate for the healthcare piece was $7.6 billion. Okay, that was the 3.3 number, and they had vehicle sales at over $15 billion for the quarter. In the latest revision, it went from $7.6 billion to $22.1 billion, or an increase of $14.5 billion, which, by the way, according to the number today, health care now contributed over $2 trillion worth of growth. And I'm laughing, in the quarter. So if that was every quarter, that'd be $8 trillion, right? The economy is not even $20 trillion. Are we really at that point? It is about to surpass what has always been the number one driver of GDP, housing. Right? And obviously, think about it. The average house is, 250,000. If it's new, it's over 300,000. I mean, it's the biggest purchase anybody's ever going to make in the history of their life. In housing, by the way, just to show you the difference, $2.017 trillion in healthcare spending. Housing was $2.046 trillion. So I don't know if that's right or not. I'm just telling you that they're calling this the plug number because they did it really in the second quarter and again in the third quarter. And obviously I missed it in the second quarter. I didn't see it. But I wanted to point it out to all of you because it really does impact about what's really happening. And according to the 2 quarters of 3% GDP growth, it was all done on the back of us paying more for health care. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean for the rest of GDP next year, but the fact that we're now saying health care and housing are the two biggest pieces is that's a big change. And really, when you're talking about adding, hey, it was $7 billion. Oh wait, no, it's $22 billion. I mean, really? We missed it by that much? Even automobiles, which I knew was too high, was only, they were too high by 2 or 3 trillion, or 2 or 3 billion, excuse me. So it's one of those things where I'm not sure. But it does really fit, though, if that number was right, why we're struggling, right, to pay bills, right? And you think about what Moody's said yesterday about why they don't think there's going to be the great boom in economic growth because we're falling behind on our bills. So you got that piece. So I wanted to put that out there. I think that's I don't know if that trend continues or not. If that trend doesn't continue, then obviously the GDP growth was a lot weaker than we thought, which may end up leading to next year's number. Hey, maybe we don't get the bigger spike that I'm hoping we're going to get. But in reality, maybe we did. It just got hidden over by some huge jumps in healthcare costs. We'll have to wait and see how it shakes out. But it was pretty interesting. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's only interesting to me, right? Because I'm like, how can you miss if this is as big as housing? Okay, if we're going to believe that healthcare is now as big as housing, you missed it by almost 3 times. Hey, we said $7 billion. Oh, we really meant $22 billion. I mean, that's an incredible miss, isn't it? Speaking of missing, we're going to talk about debt and what the USA Today had to say about it when we return.
This is the Phyllis Schlafly Report, presenting a daily conservative pro-family perspective since 1983 and continuing the legacy of Phyllis Schlafly. Now, from the Phyllis Schlafly Center Studios, here's Ryan Haidt.
If there's one phrase to describe Americans today, it would be fed up. In April 1999, America's circumstances were only slightly different. We had a 2-term liberal president who directly lied to the American people and pandered to anti-American globalists. Most conservatives had about as much Bill and Hillary Clinton as they could handle. So Phyllis Schlafly spoke up for conservatives around the nation with a plainly titled article, "I'm Fed Up." She pointed out fundamental hypocrisies within the Democratic Party that still exist today. The first hypocrisy is the left's self-proclaimed moral high ground. Conservatives are commonly accused of having a holier-than-thou attitude, but liberals are the true culprits. What could be more hypocritical than Bill Clinton, the supposed male champion of feminism, suppressing stories of sexual misconduct through his powerful position? Or Hillary Clinton personally targeting those women and calling them liars on national television? Liberals who claim moral superiority should be more careful when choosing their champions. The serious scandals that have rocked Hollywood this fall are more of the same. Phyllis also pointed out the hypocrisy of liberals calling for non- or bipartisanship when things don't go their way. Of course, they called on Republicans to be bipartisan when they didn't have the majorities, but Democrats fell in line for a fully partisan vote to save President Clinton from being removed from office. Similarly, Democrats criticized Republicans for not being bipartisan in their efforts to repeal Obamacare. Yet Democrats trampled any bipartisan input when they were passing it in the first place. Calls for bipartisanship from the left are no different than calls for party unity from establishment Republicans. They only say things like that when they know they're losing. If Democrats and establishment Republicans were smart, they would read the April 1999 Phyllis Schlafly report. It expertly captures the sentiments felt by Americans in the age of Trump. We reject the left's fake moral assertions. We reject their pleas for bipartisanship and party unity as they drown in a sea of their own deceptions. In short, we're fed up.
2017 marks 50 years of the Phyllis Schlafly Report from Phyllis Schlafly Eagles, mailed, broadcast, and posted online to millions of Americans eager to follow her traditional conservative perspective. We continue that legacy at phyllisschlafly.com, archiving the past, addressing today's key issues, and staying alert for the future. So bookmark phyllisschlafly.com. Thanks for listening, and join us again for the Phyllis Schlafly Report.
Backwards, use words like no, sir, yes, ma'am, back.
800-951-0592. Gold just went positive here, up $1, 12.67. So even a little better deal right now on those proof 1-ounce American Gold Eagles. I would have a hard time. It's possible, I guess, that sometime maybe you could buy it for a little closer to spot. I don't ever see that happening. But it is, obviously anything's possible, because if you would have told me up until yesterday, if you would have said you could do it, I would have laughed at you. But again, I think the reason why you need to take advantage of it, we most likely won't see an event like this again. Proof, 1 ounce American Gold Eagles with the box, with the cert, $1,350. If you buy 20 or more, I'm going to throw in the shipping. 800-951-0592. Right now, a Proof 1 ounce Gold Eagle is cheaper than a regular Gold Eagle. I mean, yeah, that's a messed up market, so take advantage of it. 800-951-0592. USA Today. Washington headed for a $1 trillion deficit. 2018 could be the year the dam burst on the federal deficit. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Okay, remember when Trump won the election and they were talking about how the deficit by the time he was going to go into office, right, we got to $19.5 trillion. And when Barack Obama had taken office, it was only like $11 trillion. And you did math, and you're like, hey, wait a minute. We've been added over $1 trillion a year to the deficit for 8 straight years in a row. But this is, again, they have two sets of books up there in Washington. Like any good criminal organization, they probably actually got 3 or 4. In June, the Congressional Budget Office, and this probably has a lot to do with me asking the question, how could we miss health care spending by that much? How could you revise down every single category of personal consumption except for health care and only have GDP be revised down a tenth because it was such a big miss? The Congressional Budget Office predicted that the government deficit was going to fall to $563 billion. Right? And, of course, you've never heard that come out of my mouth, right? I kept on, no, it's going to be a lot higher. And, of course, remember last year, the good number was $666 billion. And the actual number was, I think it was $1.1 trillion, I believe was the actual number. The budget experts now, apparently the Congressional Budget Office isn't very good at, well, I'll tell you why they predicted that in a minute. Say they now think 2018 could exceed $1 trillion because of a series of bills passed in quick succession and decisions to scrap an already weak limits on spending. Now remember, we don't have a budget yet for fiscal year 2018, even though we're getting ready to end the first quarter of 2018, and Congress is supposed to kick the can down the road again, I think, till sometime in January. The tax package Congress sent to the president is going to cut government revenue by $135 billion in 2018. And by the way, 2019, it'll decrease revenues by $280 billion. That's by the Joint Committee on Taxation. That's where those numbers come from. On top of that, so you're like, okay, well, we got to add $135 billion to whatever number we had. On top of that, Congress approved emergency disaster aid bills totaling $15 billion in September and $36.5 billion in October. Yeah, you would think we would budget for that stuff, right? I mean, because they do happen enough. This week, lawmakers wanted to add another $81 billion. Of course, California still on fire. I think now that fire is now the largest ever in the state of California. obviously the hurricanes in Puerto Rico and Harvey and Irma and Maria. That spending needs to be added to the 2018 deficit. And then the CBO's original estimate, so the 563. Hey, we got to add 135 billion from the tax cuts. Then we got to add, because they didn't have it in the budget, 15 billion and 36.5 billion, and then another 81 billion. That already, by the way, that number brings it to 830. The deficit was going to go down. The reason why they said it was going to go down, it was assumed the adoption of Trump's original budget proposal that was done in March, which that didn't happen. And I don't know why they would use something that isn't factual, but it's government. They always like to do that. I gotta turn the page here. They said in that budget, it had all those spending cuts. Remember, we remember he's going to slash the State Department, he's going to slash the Education Department, he's going to have all these cuts. Didn't happen. Spending levels for 2018 will not be settled until January now, right? We just talked about that. Hopefully they settle it then. But the negotiations that are currently going on in Congress aren't focused on how much they're going to cut. Right? Of course not. No, they're actually debating just how much they're going to go past the caps on domestic and defense spending. If you add that the economy is just not going to explode positively, now, right, there's the rub. Is it or is it not? Then we could easily see the deficit move past the $1 trillion mark. And, of course, that would be the good number. That would mean the real number would probably be, 1.5 or 1.6 trillion. And this is what I said. Even if we get 3, even if we get, 4, you can't stop the debt train that's coming. In 2018, it's still not one of the big bad years. That doesn't really start going until 2019, 2020, 2021. Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. So you start doing, public school math. We haven't got, remember now, we want to increase defense spending, and we want to do the infrastructure, and we've got the budget still, all to add to this. Then you got to subtract out some GDP growth. We don't know what those numbers are going to be, but it's going to be close. And here's the thing. It really doesn't matter if it's 2018 or 2019. We're going to get really close to it. You think about the last time we had the trillion number, the real number, or the real number, the smaller number, the fake government number. Right? We just had, we're in the middle, the throes of the Great Depression, and we had the war in Iraq and Afghanistan going on. Right? And we ran, at one point we got what? 1 year we had that $1.4 trillion deficit. And now we've got an unemployment rate of 4.1. We're on our, 9th or 10th year of expansion. And we're going to have a deficit that is somewhere in the vicinity of $1 trillion. And they want you to think it's going to be okay. Remember when I started the show, I told you there's a reason why. Our founding fathers wanted the money to be gold and silver. Because they knew what happens when you didn't. They would just keep printing. And eventually it goes to nothing. It's worthless. Right? I mean, really, the whole revolution, representation without taxation and the Tea Party, really it all had to do with the fact that they went to script money and then said, you know what, we don't want that anymore. We want to go back. And people got upset, and rightfully so. And we're in the throes of it. We don't want to admit it. But here's the problem. We haven't even gotten to the bad stuff. And like I said, and I've been saying it now for, the last couple of years, I'm not talking about $30 trillion, right? Remember how the CBO got to $30 trillion? They thought the deficit this year was only going to be, I'm going to get the right number here, $560 billion. Now today, probably going to be $1 trillion. And remember, while they were saying 30, I was telling you 40. Guess what? 40's maybe conservative. And that scares the you-know-what out of me. I mean, we just went 10 years where we doubled it. In the last 10 years, we went from 10 to 20. We did. Actually, probably went a little more than that. We probably went from 9 to 20, or maybe even 8. But let's just say we doubled it. In the next 10 years, we're going to double it again. And that's not counting some great big recession. That doesn't count some type of massive financial crisis. If that happens, it could get a lot worse. That doesn't include some nuclear war with North Korea. Right? That just says, hey, let's just trying to pay our bills. That's just trying to continue Social Security and Medicare payments, which, isn't it funny they didn't? Did you hear anybody even mention those words? Here's a tax cut, and we want to add defense spending, and we want an infrastructure product, and we want to grow. Really, what they're talking about is, hey, let's just spend. I mean, you call it what you want, but nobody wants to talk about it. Just those two programs alone are going to be $3 trillion in 10 years from today. We'll spend $3 trillion just on those two programs. We won't even collect $3 trillion in taxes in 2018. And this is on top of all the other things that are out there. One of those other things, Illinois, I hate to keep talking about them, but the numbers are out for the population change by state for 2016, 2017. Nobody lost more people than the state of Illinois. And really, only about 10 states or so, 10, 11 states had negative population growth. Because, we're still growing. Texas, by the way, they grew by 400,000 people. They were number one. Florida was number two. California, that kind of surprised me. They were number three. Then it was Washington, North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Colorado, Tennessee, South Carolina, Nevada. Throw Utah in there. They had at least 50,000 people or more. And then everybody else was kind of, somewhere between 0 and 50,000, with the exception of New Mexico was pretty flat, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Vermont, North Dakota, Hawaii, Mississippi, Alaska, Louisiana, Wyoming, which I was a little surprised by. And then the two big losers, West Virginia, which my brother lives there. You know what? Remember, I kept telling you stories about my brother. He's like, no one can live in this state. And then Illinois, which lost over 30,000 people. And again, that just puts even more pressure on a state that already doesn't have enough money. And everybody fleeing the state. I don't know what's going to happen. When will the bailout of Illinois come? That's probably a really good question. I don't think it makes it 10 years either. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. Final segment, Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. Don't let today go by without picking up some of the, if you have the means, you know, I don't want to say it's, you got to buy it, you have to buy it, but you really do. If you have the means and you know I'm going to be adding to my hard assets portfolio over the next, 10 years, of course you're going to be take advantage of this one. I think this is one of those ones that you're just going to be, man, I'm so glad I did it. A proof 1 ounce American Gold Eagles, and I hate to pitch it this hard, but I mean it's that good. At $1,350 at 800-951-0592. Gold's $1,267.10. Silver's come all the way back. Now silver's at almost $16.20. I have about 12 to 15 rolls of Silver Eagles. They're here in stock, still at $3.80. Remember, I made that mistake last week, so I apologize for that, which is $19. So, you're talking about $2.80 or so over spot. Another great opportunity. So we got Proof Gold Eagles at $13.50. We've got rolls of Silver Eagles, and I don't have that many, but say a dozen rolls of Silver Eagles at $3.80. 800-951-0592. And I know, listen, I want to be excited too, right? Right? The tax cut. Listen, you know what I regret about the tax cut is I'm not a 1%er. Heck, even a 5%er. You know what? I could have saved a bunch of money. Am I going to save a few dollars? I am, right? And most of us will initially. Is it life-changing money? No. Will it cover the cost of what my health care is going to go up this year, because it goes up every year now? Probably not. Close. But despite all of these things, and we want to talk about this great stock market and which it's been great, understand what really is happening. And really what is happening is we're spending like never seen in the history of the world type spending. Right? We're going to, USA Day, somewhere near $1 trillion this year. Right? With an unemployment rate of about 4%. What happened? Right now they're talking about, nobody's even talking about cutting it. And all anybody's talking about is what? Spending more money. And realistically, there's no number that I can, like I said, even at 6%, I don't know, still goes up. And the part that's even scarier is what happens now. We're in that period now where every year it's just hundreds of billions of dollars every year, no matter what we do. And that's the part that really, when you think about it, Social Security and Medicare, how can it get any better if the unemployment rate's only 4%? Right? That means everybody that, is working, and we know a bunch of people are never going to work again. Why is there still 42 million people on food stamps? Simple. They're never going to work again. Patriot Radio News Hour, 800-951-0592. One more show before Christmas. Everybody take care. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. Get all that shopping done, and we'll talk one more time.